This conference will now be recorded.
All right, thank you. So we could get started with the first item, introductions. So my name is Derek Cravat here from MassDOT Office of Transportation Planning. Until Steve is able to show up, I will serve. I will serve as the chair representing MassDOT Secretary and CEO Jamie Tesler. Do you want to call the roll, Brian?
Yeah, typically we've just called the signatories that are present, so I can do that. I have a list. Arthur Frost, Mass DOT Highway Division. I can see Arthur. Okay, Tom Skowarski, City of Fitchburg.
Present.
Guy Corpizero, MRPC.
Present, but I am also coming in, I think, as caller one because I am having problems with
Is anyone
my audio
speaking?
on.
I haven't heard a word, so I'm wondering if it's just me.
Yes, Arthur. Can you hear me? Guy, to your point, thank you for pointing that out. Looks like you are caller one. Okay, I'll just continue on. We have from Bonnie Mahoney.
I'm present, but George is now the representative, not myself.
Okay, so George Kahali from Mart.
Present.
From Subregion 2, Rosemary Meissner.
Here.
Subregion 3, Tim Kilhart.
Present.
And those are all the signatories that I have present as of this moment. We have 6 signatories, so just the bare minimum needed to pass anything. And
Okay.
It looks like actually, excuse me, with Arthur Frost now off, we are actually under. So we do have one item.
He's going to log back in. He's just having an issue with his mic. He can hear you. He can't hear anyone. So.
Okay. All right. It looks like Sarah, if he's not able to sign back on for some reason, we have you down as well. So
Okay.
We should be all set. Yep. I'll bring up the agenda again.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, Brian. The next item is public comments. Is there any member of the public that would like to make a comment at this time? Seeing none. If you do have a comment, feel free to type that into the chat at any point or unmute and we will call on you. The next item is approval of the February 16th, 2022 meeting minutes. Is there a motion and a second to approve these minutes as shown on the screen?
I motion it to be approved.
Okay. Thanks, George. Is there a second?
A guy called the zero second.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right. I think with that, then Brian, you can call the roll.
Arthur Frost, Mass DOT Highway, or Sarah Bradbury if Arthur is not here.
Yes.
Tom Skowarski, Fitchburg.
Here.
Guy Corpizero, MRPC.
Yes.
George
Did you
Kahali.
hear that?
Yes. George Kahali, Mart.
Yes.
Rosemary Meissner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So that motion carries. So the next item on the agenda is a bipartisan infrastructure law presentation. So this is me. I have this presentation. So I will go ahead and start sharing my screen before we get into the discussion on the tip. I think I need you to make me a presenter, actually, Brian.
Okay, that should be.
Thank you. Okay. Can folks see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So I'll be presenting today just a quick update on the bipartisan infrastructure law, or bill, also known as the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act. So this was passed into law this past fall of 2021, and has implications for the MPO's regional target funding, both in 2022, potentially with the passage of an appropriations bill, as well as for the next STIP cycle for the 23 to 27 STIP. So we wanted to make sure all the MPO members were aware of sort of what's included in this bill and the implications for the MPO. So today I'll just cover the highway formula programs included in the bill, as well as transit formula programs, and talk a little bit about the discretionary programs that are included as well. So with regard to highway formula funding, this bill serves as the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Act. So if folks are familiar with the FAST Act, this is sort of the next iteration of that same kind of law. It's called the Surface Transportation Reauthorization Bill, and it covers fiscal years 2022 to 2026. And for Massachusetts, it includes approximately $5.4 billion in highway funding from the Highway Trust Fund. The amounts that are up top in that second bullet are formula funds. There's $3.5 billion in reauthorized amounts that are already in the 22 to 26 STIP, $449 million in increased funding for all of those sources, and then $1.4 billion in other formula programs that are new to this bill. So I just want to be clear that this is renewing what's in the STIP already. So the sources like CMAQ and HSIP and SDBG and NHPP, all of those are part of this bill. It increases the levels for those amounts by $449 million. And then on top of that, it adds $1.4 billion for completely new formula programs. And those new formula programs are listed there on the bottom. So there's a big focus on kind of bridges and resiliency. You'll see throughout this presentation, the $1.4 billion in the new bill for this new formula funding includes $1.1 billion. That's the largest amount of new funding for the new bridge program, so new bridge formula funds. There's also $106.5 million for a new program entirely focused on resiliency. It's called Protect. And then $93.7 million for a new program called Carbon Reduction, $63.5 million for a new electric vehicle infrastructure program, and then $9.1 million for ferry boats and terminals. So the carbon reduction and the Protect programs are what we call core formula programs. So those are sort of on the same level as HSIP and CMAQ and the other sources that the MPO funds projects for. So those two programs are now going to be sort of incorporated into regional targets and account for some of the increases we'll see in regional target funding. The bridge program, EV charging program, and ferry boats are sort of separate from those, and something that MassDOT will handle mostly. So I did just want to do a quick definition slide. Won't spend too much time on this slide, but there's three types of funding that are included in the new bill. Contract authority comprises 83% of it. That's directly from the Highway Trust Fund and gets apportioned for those core formula programs mostly. That I sort of just described. So this is the bulk of the funding in the bill. And this is subject to an obligation limitation. So I think every agency is subject for federal funding to this obligation limitation. And this is no different. So just that is subject to that. Supplemental appropriations are not subject to that. So these are outside of that process. And 13% of the funding in the new bill is for supplemental appropriations. And then there's a third type called authorization subject to appropriation. That's a much smaller amount. But just wanted to define those terms of what's included. So recent news that does impact MPO funding is the passage of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2022, which I believe was signed yesterday by the president and passed by Congress late last week. So this has implications for transportation funding as it does for the larger federal budget. Excuse me, I'll just kind of move this so I can see all the text here. So with this new appropriations bill, we have sufficient obligation to actually access the amounts that are in the bill. So the bill runs from 2022 to 2026. because we were operating, or the federal government was operating under a continuing resolution up until, I believe, yesterday, March 15th, the increases for 2022 were not yet kind of available. And now that we have this appropriations bill, it unlocks that funding to actually be available for spending. So that's a big piece of news that has implications, and we'll be coordinating with folks over the next few months for potential projects to spend that new funding on. But there are two programs, the electric vehicle program and the bridge program, because those are funded with supplemental appropriations. We could start spending those kind of regardless of this passage of the appropriations bill, but did just want to mention that. I've mentioned this impacts regional target funding. So the regional target funding is, of course, funded with these core formula programs that are in the bill. And now that this appropriations bill has passed, in the third bullet point there, you'll see the increase in regional target is just about $2 million for fiscal year 2022 for the Montachusett region. So we're still kind of digesting some of this information, but based on the analysis we've done, that would be the increase that the region would be receiving based on the higher amounts in the bill. We're currently still coordinating with our Highway Division leadership and other partners to identify projects and sort of figure out a plan for this funding. But that would be the implication of this for the MPO. With regard to 23 to 27, based on the amount that we sort of split between MassDOT Highway Division and the MPOs, 1/3 of the overall funding goes to MPOs, and then the remaining 2/3 goes to the Highway Division. So for 23 to 26, you can see the increase in the regional target for the Montachusett region is approximately, it's about $8 million. I'm having trouble reading all of the text. $8.8 million for the Montachusett region over a 5-year period. So it's roughly a $2 million increase in regional target funding. So as the MPO considers, and I think Brian and others will be presenting later on new funding in the bill as it specifically relates to the regional target, and you'll sort of see what that might open up for potential new projects and things like that. But it does mean more funding across the board in the tip. And as far as statewide funding goes, Massachusetts, like I said, receives the other 2/3 of that based on the MARPA formula that's pre-established. So that goes to our statewide programs included in the CIP, like bridge program, bicycle and pedestrian program, and other programs included there. So that's kind of the implications for the MassDOT side. And we also have this new formula bridge program and the new electric vehicle infrastructure program and the ferry boat program that MassDOT will sort of determine how to spend. And just a quick note on the supplemental appropriations that we wanted to mention is that those two programs, the bridge program, the new formula bridge program, and the electric vehicle charging program, because they're funded with supplemental appropriations, they're not subject to the same use it or lose it requirement that other funding sources are. So with like HSIP and CMAQ and other sources like that, if the amounts are apportioned but not programmed and obligated within a given fiscal year, we would lose access to those. It's not the same with the supplemental appropriation. So we can spend those, I think, up to like a 3 to 4 year period and have it be allowable for spending, even if it's not spent within the year it's actually apportioned. And we do have $1.1 billion over 5 years for the Formula Bridge program, and $63.5 million over 5 years for the electric vehicle charging program. But for the EV charging program, we do need an approved plan in place before we can start spending that money. So that's something that MassDOT Office of Transportation Planning is currently scoping out, and we'll hopefully have in place shortly to be able to spend that particular funding. So this is just a summary slide for the highway formula funding. Overall, we're seeing an increase of 34%, $449 million in existing programs, $200 million for the 2 new core formula programs, and $1.2 billion for the 2 new supplemental appropriations programs. And now that we have a federal appropriations bill, these new programs are able to kind of be, I think, accessed. We're still, again, coordinating with our federal partners on this, and we'll be updating you all shortly, but we did just want to give that update. And then the formula funding, again, is still available for the ones funded with supplemental appropriations. So that's the highway side. I have a section on transit and then discretionary programs, but I did just want to pause here and see if folks have any questions so far. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the transit formula funding. So the bill included approximately $2.8 billion in transit formula funding for transit agencies. 2.2 billion of that is for the MBTA. And can folks still see my screen? I think I might have. Okay. I think. Okay. Sorry about that. I think. So 2.2 billion of that new funding is for the MBTA, and the remaining 600 million is distributed among the other RTAs across Massachusetts. There's no new formula programs for transit in the bill, but the formula funds still are comprised of urbanized area funds, state of good repair funds, and bus facility funds. So the same programs that transit agencies have now, 5307, 5339, all of those are renewed and increasing, but there are no new formula programs, although there are new discretionary programs that I'll mention in a moment. But first, to cover the discretionary programs on the highway side, there are over 35 new discretionary programs administered by US DOT in the bill. 18 of those programs are reauthorized or existing, and then 19 are reauthorized and new. So there's approximately $36.1 billion of funding on the national level for new programs that are discretionary or competitive. So these are kind of grant style programs that US DOT will administer, and you can see there the entities within US DOT that will do that. So Office of the Secretary, Federal Highway, FTA, FRA, and the Maritime Commission. And under some of these programs, even though they are funded potentially by FHWA or FRA, transit projects could potentially be eligible under those programs, the same way we can flex things like CMAQ and other highway sources to transit. Some of these programs, that is also the case for, and that depends on some of the specific guidelines, but did want to mention that. These are the three largest programs administered by the Office of the Secretary. RAISE grants is the first one. So there's currently a notice of funding opportunity out for this right now that was issued on February 4th. And the deadline for applications is April 14th. So municipalities and MPOs and states can all apply for RAISE funds. And the new bill increases the amount of funding available for RAISE, sorry about that, by 50%. So it's quite a large increase in the bill for this particular funding program. And that funds sort of larger projects in Massachusetts. So the city of Boston received a RAISE grant last year for a center running bus lane, and MassDOT did apply, but there are other projects that are certainly eligible for RAISE grants. So I encourage folks to check out that NOFO and the National Infrastructure Project Assistance Grants. These are for kind of what the bill calls mega projects. So they're assistance grants to make larger projects that might not otherwise have enough funding for planning and design kind of come to life as part of this program. So there is some selection criteria that was released on February 14th that's available. And then the final program under the Office of the Secretary is Safe Streets and Roads for All. So this is a new program authorized at $5 billion nationally over 5 years. We're expecting to see notice of funding opportunities some point over the next 3 months. And state DOTs are not eligible entities for this funding. So this is really meant to be a local funding program open to MPOs and local governments and federally recognized tribes. So if there are municipalities interested in funding for this, more information should be coming out shortly, and seems like a great new program. A few other discretionary programs that we're highlighting: nationally significant freight and highway projects, or infra. This is a grant program designed for freight projects, expecting to see a NOFO for this shortly. There's some talk of it happening the first quarter of 22, but we haven't seen it yet. The bridge investment program. So in addition to all of the formula funding that's in the bill for bridges, there's also a discretionary program for bridges called the Bridge Investment Program at $12.5 billion over 5 years. And this is something we don't have a next milestone on this yet, but is nonetheless included in the bill. So in addition to, similarly for formula programs for resiliency and the charging and fueling infrastructure, these are both formula programs and discretionary programs. So there's components of both of them in the new bill. So for PROTECT, and you can see the acronym there, promoting resilient operations for transformative, efficient, and cost-saving transportation, which is a mouthful, but creative that they've made the acronym PROTECT, designed for resiliency. It's authorized at $1.4 billion of national grants over the 5-year period of the bill. And it includes set-asides for coastal infrastructure, community resilience, and evacuation routes, as well as planning. So planning grants for resiliency efforts and things like that, that's a grant program in the new bill. And then charging and fueling infrastructure grants. This is another new program. And so in addition to the formula funding for electric vehicle charging stations, there's also a discretionary program for this as well. So communities and others should be able to apply for electric vehicle charging program through the bill. We're waiting on additional guidance right now, but it's included. And some projects will need to be on what are known as alternative fuel designated corridors that MassDOT will be working on developing and designating, along with our federal partners. But there is some portion of that funding that does not need to be on a designated corridor that can be spent, and that's the community component of that program. So those can be spent on either. And then there's a new discretionary program called Rural Surface Transportation Grants, which is exactly what it sounds like, for discretionary transportation funding for rural communities. And then a Reconnecting Communities pilot program. So we don't have a next milestone on this either, but it's nonetheless included in the bill to help address transportation equity, specifically for communities that have historically been kind of separated due to interstate highway construction. So it'll be interesting to see how that program develops. And then these final 2 slides are just on the discretionary programs administered by the Federal Transit Administration. So there's funding in the bill for capital investment grants. That's an existing program that's reauthorized in the bill, funding new starts, small starts, and core capacity transit projects. There's low or no emission bus grants. That's another existing program, just reauthorized, and the NOFO was issued for that on March 4th, 22. I'm sure the MART folks are aware of all of this and might have more information on all of these programs, but nonetheless, this is a high level look. And same for the bus and bus facilities grants. There was a joint NOFO for this as well on March 4th, 2022. And there's 2 new programs that we wanted to highlight on the FTA side: the All Stations Accessibility Program, focused on upgrading accessibility of fixed guideway public transportation assets for people with disabilities in the new bill, and a final program on rail vehicle replacement grants. And we're expecting to see a notice of funding opportunity for that one in the second quarter of 2022. So at some point over the next few months. So that is the last slide. I know that was a lot of information, and it's a lot of really dense stuff, especially when it comes to the budgeting process. So happy to take questions. I definitely will share this with MRPC staff and can make available to folks so you can review more. But are there any questions at this time? All right. Well, seeing none, I will stop sharing then. And can pull the agenda back up. All right, so the next item then is the 22 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program. Is this you, Brian?
Yep, I can take this. Okay, so we have a proposed amendment number 3 to the current tip, specifically in the state prioritized section 2022. And what we're looking for today is a recommendation from the group to release this for a 21-day public comment period. So here's the handout. It includes cost increases on 2 projects, as I mentioned in the state prioritized highway section. The first project is project 609-529 in Leominster, Viscoid Ave, which is Safe Routes to School project. Currently, it's funded at $2,232,523. The amendment would increase total funds to $3,994,619, which is a total increase of $826,096, or approximately 38.6%. And the reason for the project increase is due to the addition of sidewalks throughout the project, including the addition of a few smaller sections of additional sidewalks and the relocation of sidewalks in some locations to avoid the need to relocate utility poles. The second project in this amendment is project 608-850, also in fiscal year 22 of the state prioritized section. That's Peter Sam bridge replacement, Glen Valley Road over East Branch of the Swift River. Currently, that's funded at $2,050,591. The amendment would bring that to $2,844,044, which would be a total cost increase of $793,453 for approximately 38.7% increase. So again, we're looking for a recommendation to release this for a public comment, and that period would run 21 days from March 25th through April 14th.
So moved, Arthur Frost.
It's Arthur. Is there a
Second. Second, Guy Caldicero.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the members? All right, seeing none, I think you can call the roll, Brian.
Arthur Frost, Mass DOT Highway.
Yes.
Tom Skorowski, City of Fitchburg.
Yes.
Guy Corvacero, MRPC.
Yes.
George Kahali, Mart.
Second, yes.
Rosemary Meissner, Subregion 2.
Yes.
And Tim Kilhart, Subregion 3.
Yes.
Okay, so that carries.
All right, thank you. So I'll come back and endorse that next month. And it's possible we'll see some adjustments to the costs, I think, on the Petersham project. So just something to be on the lookout for, but we'll coordinate that internally. The next item on the agenda is the federal fiscal year 2023 Unified Planning Work Program. Is this Sherry?
Yes, this is me. All right, so what we did is we have the proposed requested project list for to move forward with the UPWP update. We have Leominster Jungle Road Route 117 at Jungle Road intersection study, Townsend Route 119 and Route 13 intersection study. For Shirley, Lunenburg, we had the freight study, and then AIR also had joined in on that request. So it'll be a joined 3 community project for Shirley, Lunenburg, and AIR for a freight truck study. And then Lunenburg also has Chase Road and Northfield Road intersection study. So we have pretty much moved all the projects forward except for one that was in Lunenburg at Route 13 and West Street, and that was just because Lunenburg had 3 requests and we had asked them to prioritize them. So we took the first 2 priority projects that they had. And we felt that 3 might be a bit much for one community, and we wanted to spread it out a little bit more. So after we looked at the equity analysis, and for both the environmental justice Title VI and geographic equity, Ayer and Shirley came out as the top communities that would benefit the most from these types of projects. So we have prioritized Ayer and Shirley, and then Lunenburg for the freight study. And then we had brought this up to the MJTC, and they had given full support for moving those projects forward. We also have a housing development study that was in the UPWP guidance that MassDOT had said that, with the new bipartisan infrastructure bill, that would qualify. So we have that also as a new project on the project list. And I think that's all I have for that. We do anticipate having a full draft for the MPO by the next meeting in April, which I believe is April 20th, where we can hopefully release it for public comment at that time. And we will be sending out letters to the communities, letting them know that we have chosen their projects within the next week or 2, along with what we have, like a draft project write-up, so they can have a better understanding as to what we anticipate doing for each project. And that is all I have for this update. And Tom, you do have the proposed, what we're up to for this current UPWP, but that will be mentioned in the JTC update. So it's coming, just probably 20 minutes or so. That's all I have for the next upcoming UPWP.
Okay, thanks, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry?
Just one quick question. You had mentioned the housing component. Could you talk a little bit more about that? I might have missed this new eligibility.
Well, I wonder if, Derek, would you be able to talk about the eligibility component? I'm not sure.
Sure. Yeah. In the new infrastructure law, there is some language in the bill about housing coordination plans and aligning kind of transportation planning with housing production goals, and calls out explicitly that metropolitan planning funds can be spent on advancing kind of regional housing goals. Metropolitan planning funds are one sort of apportioned piece of federal transportation funding. So it was interesting that it was housing, sort of development of housing plans was considered an eligible use. So I think there has to be some degree of a transportation tie-in, but it's nonetheless, it sort of like hopes to coordinate transportation with regional housing goals. So
we will include that. Yeah. We'll include the write-up in our handout for the next month's meeting. So you will see how we hope to go about doing that. We just started the draft write-up last week, where we're also coordinating with our community development department. So they'll be tied in to this project as well.
Sounds good. Did that answer your question, Tom? Do you have more specifics about the task itself?
Yes, but it sounds like that'll come in writing later. I'm happy to just wait until then. But yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions? I see. George asked if that has to include TOD. That's certainly one eligible use. I think it can be broader than that though, but that it would definitely be an eligible expenses to study TOD or look at that in relation to housing and transportation. So Any other questions for Sherry? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Sherry. I think we can move on to the 2023 to 27 tip, update of project listings, costs, and status. It's Brian.
Yep, I'll take this one. So today we'd like to review a few scenarios we put together for the target project section of the tip, and ultimately agree upon a slate of projects that we can move forward and develop into a draft tip, which we'll bring before the group next month. But before that, we have some additional information from the transit section and the statewide section of projects in the tip. First off, this is the transit section list. Is a preliminary list prioritized by the Transit Authority that was provided to us last week. I won't go over this in details, but it's included in the tip and the analysis, and includes the same 5 federal fiscal years, 23 through 27. You can see in the handout under the notes column, it has a description of each of these projects. Most of them are vehicle replacement projects and system upgrades and facility maintenance projects through the Transit Authority. So this will be included in the draft available next month, and it's available for the group today as well. On the statewide side, these are state prioritized projects within our region. Mass DOT prioritizes these. This is also a preliminary list of the next 5 years that we'll include in the tip. And I can go over these projects year by year. In 2023, we have Phillipston-Templeton pavement preservation and related work on Route 2. Ashby intersection improvements on Greenville Road and Turnpike Road, which is Route 31. Fitchburg pavement preservation and related work on Route 2. Gardner, Elm Street resurfacing and sidewalk improvements, which is Safe Route to School project. In 2024 in Hubbardston, a bridge replacement, Williamsville Road over the Burnshirt River. In Fitchburg and Ashby, resurfacing and related work on Route 31. And in Fitchburg and Leominster, Twin Cities Rail Trail construction phase 2. In fiscal year 25 in Sterling, stormwater drainage improvements on Wachusett Reservoir on Route 110. And in Gardner, bike path bridge construction at the North Central Pathway over Route 140. In fiscal year 26, there's one project, which is Fitchburg improvements at Memorial Middle School, which is Safe Route to School project. And finally, in 2027, there is Lancaster Leominster interstate maintenance and related work on I-190. So again, this statewide highway listing and the transit listing will also be included in the tip. Now we get to the target funding section. So this is the bulk of the discussions we've had the last few months. This first handout we've looked at is unchanged from last month. It's basically showing the target section projects as is currently listed on the 22 through 26 tip. What we've done is developed 2 scenarios for consideration for this tip update from 23 through 27. And the main difference in each of these scenarios is the placement of project 607432 in 2023, which is Westminster Rehab and Box Widening on 140. Initially, as I mentioned last month, there was some discussion that this project may need to move back a year due to project readiness, and specifically right-of-way issues and issues with Article 97 legislation, because it abuts the Fitchburg water supply. So the first scenario here is different from the second one. This particular project is moved back in the second scenario. I will say that since last month, we've been in contact with the town and project proponents, such as the town consultant and Mass DOT, and the concern for this project being ready in 2023 is somewhat mitigated, and we feel more comfortable keeping it in 23 as opposed to moving it back. So I will say that. So I'll go over scenario 1, and the scenario is described in the red font right below where it says scenario 1. This scenario would keep the current order of projects as they're currently listed. It would also adjust both advanced constructed projects in each year. That's Leominster Route 12 Central Street project listed in 24, 25, and 26, and the Harvard resurfacing and box widening on Air Road project currently listed in 26 and 27. So this scenario will not move the years in which these projects will be listed, but slightly adjust the funding in each year. This scenario would also move 3 projects from the appendix to federal fiscal year. Those would be project 608, 723 in Athol into 2024, which is the intersection improvements at Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Avenue project, and 2 projects from the appendix to fiscal year 2027. Those would be Athol 608, 415, which is intersection improvements on 2A and Brookside Road, and Clinton reconstruction of Sterling Street, Route 62. So in summary, this scenario would keep Westminster 140 in 2023 and move 3 projects into a fiscal year. I'll also note that both these scenarios leave a significant balance under fiscal year 2023. In this case, scenario 1, that's $2.7 million. The idea is to spend out as much as this money as we possibly can. However, this particular year, we do not have a project which is ready to be placed in 2023. So essentially what would happen to those funds is they would revert back to state funds to be spent at the state's discretion. Also, I'll make the disclaimer that in this scenario, in 2024, 25, and 26, there is 0 balance left over in these target funds and limited balance of under $20,000 left in 2027, which is great to spend out as much as we can in our region. However, we just must be aware that costs on these projects still aren't set in stone. I believe there's going to be a cap on the cost of these listing in sometime in early April. So there's a possibility that 1 or more of these projects could increase in price, and that would affect the list as it currently stands as you see it. Since it's required to be a fiscally constrained document, that would probably mean moving 1 or more of these projects out. So scenario 2, this is the scenario that we moved Westminster Route 140 from 2023 through 2024. And the effect that would have is we'd only be able to move 1 project from the appendix into a federal fiscal year, and that in this case is project 608-723, the Athol Crescent Street intersection project into 2027. Another effect this scenario would have, we would be leaving a significant balance in 2023, over $9 million. Again, this would revert back to the state to be spent at their discretion, not necessarily in our region, but statewide. And just as in scenario 1, we leave very little balance in the outgoing fiscal years 24, 25, 26, and 27, which we would have to monitor any cost increases that may come in the next few weeks. Basically, we developed these 2 scenarios based on concerns with the Westminster project. Since that time, a lot of those concerns have been mitigated. We presented these 2 scenarios to the MJTC at their meeting last week. They suggested scenario 1 to the MPO. Today, we're looking for a recommendation from the MPO on what to develop ultimately into what will be the draft tip, which we'll be discussing next month.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, Tim Kilhott, I make a recommendation. We go with scenario number 1 as recommended by the MGTC last week.
Thank you. Arthur or someone from the district, do you want to speak to the Westminster project and maybe give a quick update on its status?
Yes, we're at this point, we're pretty confident in it being able to make FY23. We've had meetings with right-of-way. We've met with the town, the consultant, talked through the Article 97 issues, which were of concern. Green is going to move up to 100% submission, get that in, I believe, in June. They had originally targeted August. They were holding off until they had the Article 97 legislation done, but we wanted, I know, working with right-of-way, municipal right-of-way, we wanted to make sure that we got the 100% submission in as soon as possible to give us much time to resolve the right-of-way. So we're comfortable with Westminster remaining in 2023. I have one other comment. I know there's a motion on the table, and I think, well, I'll just have a discussion and then we can figure out how we do it. I think there should be a qualifier on scenario 1 released, just to let people know that at this point, essentially the target is zeroed out every year. So if there's any cost increase, like Brian brought up on any project, it will require changes to be made. So I think it's just fair. It's always hard once you put it out there that, community sees their project in there, but any cost increase would force a shift in projects. And I do know of one project that's likely to increase in cost, so.
Thanks, Arthur. Can you scroll down, Brian, to 2026? Okay, so 24 through 26 are all zeroed out, and that's the same length as the AC on that Leominster project. Okay. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a good qualifier to make folks clear that that is the case, and to really closely monitor costs.
So Derek,
yeah.
is there a sort of a hard cap date on those, when those costs will be updated?
So for STIP development, I think we're aiming for kind of mid-April to have all of the costs be finalized before they are released for the public comment period. So by then we should have sort of the latest costs updated, and then what we've typically done after that point is any cost changes that occur between, I guess it would be kind of late Q3 and the remainder of the fourth quarter of the federal fiscal year, we can, because the first year of the TIP is 2023, we typically address those in the first quarter of federal fiscal year 2023 in a STIP action. So we wouldn't be amending projects now that aren't until 2023. We would wait to do it kind of at that point, so that we wouldn't have to amend the whole TIP before it's in place, kind of thing. So yeah, so I think we'll send out some guidance on more specifics, but that's the rough timeline. Is kind of like mid-April we should have the latest costs in here, and if there are changes, we can always consider how that might impact this mix of projects, or how we might want to treat AC, for example, in Leominster, if that's an option, to change that slightly to accommodate any potential increases.
Okay. Is it safe to say that the Leominster Route 12 project is the project that may increase in cost, or is that, do you want to circle back on that at
Yes,
a later time?
it is safe to say that that's the one that I'm most concerned about a cost increase. We did change the intersection at Litchfield Road from an intersection to a roundabout, and that adds a significant amount of cost.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, and we'll be sure to monitor that. I guess the idea with these two scenarios was to really emphasize what the effect moving Westminster back, but the idea is always going to be to fund as many new projects as possible. So I guess in the spirit of this scenario, that's what we do. So we'll continue to monitor Route 12 and the effect that has. And it seems if that's the case, we'll probably be dropping a project off of this list.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and we can have discussions when cost changes come in and think about options with state funding and other things as well, and have those discussions kind of as they come up. But for now, though, I think for the purposes of this, it sounds like scenario 1 is the recommended scenario. I don't know if we actually need to do a formal vote, Brian. Is that, did you
No, we just wanted you know, some guidance from the MPO on what to develop. A formal vote will be next month's meeting when we actually have a draft to release for public comment.
Right.
So,
Okay. Perfect. So I think with that, we could consider scenario 1 the recommended scenario. And between now and April, we'll monitor those costs and come up with a final slate of projects that has the most updated costs. And if anything needs to change, we can deal with that as we need to. But for now, we'll consider this the preferred scenario. So I think you can proceed with uploading this into eStip and doing what you need to on that front.
okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. So the next item then is MART new automatic fare collection system presentation. Is this Bonnie or George? Okay.
It's me. Brian, can I present my PowerPoint or?
Sure. Let me just stop sharing and make you a presenter. You should be all set to share your screen now.
Yep. I just have to move everybody. You're in my way. I don't know how to do that. So I guess I'll go from here. Slideshow. Okay. So MART has purchased and is waiting for installation of a brand new automatic fare collection system. We got a 2020 5339 discretionary award, and then we are also supplementing with another $500,000 of our 5307 fund. So this is a $1.5 million project currently. Actually, we just supplemented another 125 to make it 1.6. Anyway, so we have to have, this is considered a fare change by FTA standards. So we have to have public meetings on our fare collection, our new fare collection system, and the changes that it will cause to our current procedures and fare system. So I talked about that with Brad, and he thought it would be great to do a presentation to the MPO. Okay, if I can get my double screens. Okay, so new fare box system coming in May. We have an installation date currently set by GenFare. Our new system is by GenFare. And they're going to start installing the new fare boxes into our buses on May 8th. That is the current, hopefully nothing changes, date. So that means the new fare boxes will be rolling out to the public on as early as May 9th. We're going to kind of go one garage at a time. We're going to start up in Athol first, since there's only 2 fixed route buses up there. And then we're going to move down to Fitchburg and Gardner and kind of coordinate all that at the same time. As you can see, because we have a new system that is now separate from the Charlie card, we are going to have a new fare, a new fare card. So this is an example of what a reduced fare or an employee type pass would look like. Stuck my picture up on there, and we actually are going to issue employee passes. So I would get if I needed a bus pass or to ride the bus, I would have my picture and all this information. And then the back of the fare card is just going to look like this. For a regular fare person, the MART logo would be much bigger and you wouldn't see a picture or any of that information. So I'm just going to go over some of the features of the new. So this is the new fare box, what it's going to look like. It looks very similar to what we currently have. You can still use coins. You can still use bills up to $20 and get a change ticket. Still use smart cards. But the new features that GenFair has is one of the complaints that we constantly hear from our customers is when they, like say they put in a $20 bill and they get $18.75 returned to them because they're a full fare customer. The Scheiten-Bachmann fare box writes that the initial value was $18.75, but it doesn't rewrite the new values. So people would get confused thinking they had more money on their little ticket than they did. And then when they finally use up all the money on their ticket, they would get in fights with the bus drivers about, no, I have more money on my ticket. And there is a way to show them what their current value is, but they have to do it on the little screen that the driver uses. The new GenFare actually takes their ticket in, rewrites their new value, and shows them what their new value is right on the ticket itself. So we're really excited about that. And then you can see here on the screen that it actually has a barcode scanner for mobile ticketing. The new system is going to come with it's what they call mobile link. And so somebody can pull up their mobile ticketing on their cell phone. It'll have a little QR code on the screen. And then the fare box in that barcode scanner reads the QR code and they can it registers that they paid their fare and they can walk on the bus. So we're actually really excited about that too. Okay. We're also going to have some of our little vans that are used. We currently have 17 small cutaway style vans that are used in fixed route service, and they have a Scheiten-Bachmann card validator. The card validator reads smart cards and stored value, but it cannot read a transfer, and it cannot read one of those overpayment tickets. So these new card validators from GenFair will be able to read the magnetic change ticket to validate that there is value left on that ticket. And it can also read the mobile tickets. And it has a nice, bright, colorful display, whereas the current Scheiten-Bachmann just kind of has like a gray, hard to read screen. So we're very excited about these two. Brand new to MART's system, MART currently does not have any ticket vending machines out there at all in the communities. You have to come to one of our MART offices during the hours that we are available to come and buy bus passes or stored value tickets from. So we're very excited about incorporating ticket vending machines. We are going to be putting 6 of these out into the communities in the first round of funding, and then we have some FY23 funding to purchase another 6. So we will have 12 ticket vending machines altogether spread around all of MART's communities. So I think with the current 6, we're going to put a ticket vending machine in Athol, one in Gardner, one at our somewhere like around town, one at our Gardner facility, one at Wachusett Station. There isn't currently anything there. We're going to be putting one at the intermodal, so that, because right now our ticket agency at the intermodal is only open 7 to 3, so this will be available during all of our hours. And then we still have to decide, we're hoping to put one down at Monument Square in Leominster, and then we still have to work with the different communities and other private entities such as malls and plazas and stuff like that to see where we can put the rest of the ticket vending machines. So you can do everything with the ticket vending machine that you can do here. If you came to MART, you can pay with cash or credit. It has bilingual options as well as Braille. And you can only purchase a full fare card. If you qualify for reduced fare, you have to come to MART and get your reduced fare card. But once you have your reduced fare card, because you've proven your eligibility, you can then reload a bus pass or reload stored value at the ticket vending machines. So once you actually have a reduced fare card, you can do anything that a full fare person can do. So, and then of course, the biggest new thing that we don't currently have is the mobile app. So GenFare has a mobile link app. It has multiple features. Not all of the features that are available we will have initiated because like we're doing the real-time arrivals through our Passio system. But it's got a trip planner, it's got real-time arrivals, it can show you all the bus routes, service alerts, and of course you can purchase mobile tickets right on your phone and use the QR scanner to do that. So we're pretty excited. And then there will also be what they call the GenFare link. This is the website and it'll be integrated into our website where customers can go on their computer browser instead of the mobile app and set up accounts, buy bus passes, load stored values, renew online. The same, when you do it on here, there's a 2-day delay because even though you purchase online, there's a delay getting it to the buses. So the buses have to probe. So we are going to be letting our customers know that there is a 2-day delay if they renew online. And so if they don't want to wait that 2 days, they should download the mobile app if they're able to. But and the same thing about the first time you get your reduced fare card, you have to come to MART, but then after that you can renew everything online. So this isn't related to our fare box, but we also wanted to make sure that people knew that we had the Passio system. We have had it in place since January, and we've been advertising it to all of our customers. This will help them to track their buses and track the capacity of the buses, even though our buses are very rarely full. But there have been some times when they're almost full. So this will show them the seating capacity as well as give them ETAs on when the bus will arrive. And like I said, we've had that in place since January. I did want to switch screens, okay, and pull up the agenda. So we are going to be having public meetings. Oh, can you guys see the agenda?
Yep.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure you could see it. We are going to be having public meetings on this. As I said, we have scheduled 4. The first meeting is going to be March 29th up in Athol at the Athol Senior Center. The second meeting will be March 31st at the Mart Intermodal. The third meeting will be April 5th at Gardner City Hall. And the last meeting will be April 6th at Leominster City Hall. All of the meetings are from 5:30 to 7. And they will be a hybrid of in-person and Zoom. You can see that the Zoom links are here. The Zoom links are the same for every single meeting. We set it up as a recurring meeting so we can do all 4 dates under the same link. This is just a copy of the agenda. All of this is being posted on our website. The first half of the meeting, I'm gonna do the presentation like I just showed you. We're gonna talk about why we're replacing our old system. We're gonna have a Q&A period, all of those things. And I'll talk about the Passio. And then the second half of our meeting is really, we're going to let the people know that we are going to be doing some potential route changes. Over the course of the summer, we will be having additional public meetings once we finalize those route changes. But we really wanted to take advantage of the Farebox meetings to really get some public input before we start making changes. We want to have better schedules, go to better places, really get out into the public, not just through this public information Farebox meetings, but also we're going to be having smaller meetings with different agency groups, and stuff like that. So the second half of the meeting will really focus on, we really want to hear from the public on what changes they would like MART to make in our system. So that's the end of my presentation. I don't know how to give the controls back to you, Brian. So there you go.
Thank you, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Bonnie? All right. Well, that's exciting. It's good stuff. And it's good to see.
I'm very excited.
Yeah,
it's finally here.
Sounds good. All right. So I think with that, we're on to the next agenda item, which is updates, MassDOT Highway Division. So Arthur, do you want to go first? And I'll go to Daryl.
Sure. And as far as updates on 22 projects, we have the 608779 Lancaster 117 at Route 70. And that's the advertisement shipped a couple of weeks. It's now March 26th, 2022. I think the last time I gave an update, it was March 12th. And then we have Hubbardston 608793, reconstruction Route 68 Main Street. And that's at final design, and that's due to be advertised June 4th, 2022. And I don't know whether I need to, do you want me to run through everything in 22, all the statewide items? I'll run through the list. What's that? Sure,
yeah, you can, if you have it ready, you can go ahead, yeah.
So, Fitchburg, Circle Street, 605296, Fitchburg Circle Street over the North Nashua River. The ad date is August 27th, 2022. It's at the 75% design. Littleton Air, Route 28 Willow and Bruce is 608443. And that is due to be advertised August 27th, 2022. Hubbardston, let's see, no, I already covered Hubbardston Main Street. Ashby, 609314. This is Ashby intersection improvements, Greenville Road and Turnpike Road. This is going to most likely move to a September ad date. It'll be tight, but we're anticipating we will make it out the door in FY22 with that. We've had internal discussions. We're shortening review timeframes in order to get this project ready for a September advertisement. And hopefully we'll have out the door before September. Let's see. Leominster, Viscaloid Ave, Safe Routes to School, 609529. We've talked about this project. It's a cost increase, and it's at 100% design. It's due to be advertised May 21st, 22. Gardner, 610672, which is Gardner Elm Street, resurfacing sidewalk improvements, Safe Routes to School, and this project is going to out. It has a 9:30 advertisement date, but this is where the school use changed, and so we lost ground on that. We were still moving ahead with the project, but we will not make FY23, but FY22 project. We have Gardner Westminster Haven Preservation related work on Route 2, which is 610729, and we're due to advertise that resurfacing project June 18th, 2022. And then we also have another project, Westminster, Fitchburg resurfacing and related work on Route 2, 610730. That was advertised in December. So what I have for updates on projects for you.
All right, thanks, Arthur. Any questions for Arthur? All right, seeing none, so we'll move to District 2. Daryl?
Hey, sure, good afternoon. This is Daryl from District 2. So let's go through for FY22. We have non-target project 608850. That's the Petersham Bridge replacement, PO 8002 Glen Valley Road over East Branch of the Swift River. Design is currently at PSNE. PSNE responses to comments were completed on March 9th. The current add date is June 11th, 2022. TFPC and project info is 2.844 million. Current tip amount is 2.050, and we're keeping an eye on this TFPC cost. I think Chris and Derek, you are aware of this project cost, TFPC, for potential amendment.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Petersham.
Right.
That was actually included in
That
the
was, yeah.
Amendment 3.
Right. Okay.
So we already have it.
Great. Perfect. All right. And so FY23, we have a target project 608784. This is Templeton Roundabout construction at the intersection of Patriots Road, South Main Street, North Main Street, and Gardner Road. Roadway design is at 75%. 100% was due or is due March 21st per the project manager. Current add date is January 14th, 2023. TFPC is 2,037,000 or 37, yeah, 2,037,000. Current tip amount is 1,719,449. For FY24, there's FY24. We have project 609107. It's currently the Phillipston Templeton pavement preservation related work on Route 2. Design is at PSNE. PSNE review was completed February 25th, and we're currently awaiting responses to comments. Current add date for this is November 11th, 2023. TFPC is 10,300,466. Current tip amount is 10,477,545. And this was mentioned, recommended to 23 potentially. FY26, there's nothing in FY25 and FY26. We have project 608424. This is Templeton reconstruction Route 68 from King Philip Trail, Route 202 north to the Phillipston town line. The design is at 75%. 100% design submission is due June 23rd this year. Current add date is January 10th, 2026. TFPC is 6,063,291, and the current tip amount is 7,017,608. And that's what I have for right now.
All right. Thanks, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? All right, thank you. So the next item is update from transit. Mark?
Yes, thank you. I don't have any additional update for Mart.
Okay.
After what
Yeah,
Bonnie covered everything. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So then next is the Joint Transportation Committee.
Yeah, I can take that.
Okay.
The MJTC met last week on March 9th. We discussed both TIP and UPWP discussions that we had with the MPO today. The next meeting for the MJTC is set for Wednesday, April 13th at 2:30 p.m. virtually. Also, the MRPC received notice from Mass DOT informing the town of Sterling that the project review committee has approved for federal funding a project for the Route 140, Route 62 intersection. An estimated cost of $3,117,500, and we will include that in the TIP appendix in this update that we're working on. It'll be project number 612612. Staff also met with the town of Winchendon and Mass DOT to discuss their project submittal for Blair Square. The town has mentioned a preferred option at that location, and Mass DOT has provided feedback via submittal through MAPIT. One last note is MRPC will be looking for interns for the upcoming summer traffic count season. The majority of the work will be in data collection based on our current work program. So we'll be posting that to our website soon. And we just have one more update from Sherry on the current UPWP.
Yep. So per Tom's request from the last MPO meeting, he was looking for where we're at for our current UPWP. So I'm just going to mention a couple of projects that we are working on. You're all aware of what we're up to for the UPWP and the TIP. They're both under development and hope to have drafts available for the April MPO meeting. As far as the data collection and analysis program, as Brian mentioned, we are in the process of starting to look for traffic interns for this summer. They'll be conducting a lot of the traffic counting, data collection, and then also the regional high crash location report and database draft is almost ready for review as well. Pavement management systems, staff's getting a schedule for inventory collection going, and then also we've reviewed different programs that are out there, and discussions are being held for a possible new software purchase in conjunction with MassDOT, and the mapping of potential vulnerable infrastructure locations are under development too. The RTP, the Regional Transportation Plan, is underway. We are getting potential outreach meetings and events planned, and then we're developing a scope and a schedule for that. Task 3.1, mobility and access planning. We are doing some research and reaching out to our local communities to identify related reports on transportation, mobility, and access. Initial mapping of trails, sidewalks, and other features is also underway, and then the local ADA information is currently being sought also. Corridor profiles. So for these, we have Ashburnham, Route 12, and basically Main Street, and Shirley Lancaster Road corridor. So we are starting to put the scopes of work together and gather available data on both locations. Local meetings will be scheduled in the very near future. Additional data collection will also begin as soon as possible. That pretty much ties into our data collection task and traffic counting. And then I'm sure this is what Tom was hoping for. The long delayed Route 12 project will be put in a draft form by the end of the month, so in the next couple weeks. The summertime construction along that corridor, which was basically all summer long, led to major delays in the study. So I know Brad is working on wrapping that up very soon. Community trail planning, mapping is underway that combines trail, sidewalks, and other applicable features. And staff has also been working with the towns of Sterling and Winchendon to assist with some possible future trail funding and development. And then the intersection analysis for Hubbardston, Route 68, and High Street, both locations of High Street, and then Leominster Mechanic Street and Leominster Connector intersection. Those are in the works. We are developing scopes for those projects and then adding those traffic count and data collection to the task as well. So that will be on the list of traffic counts for the summer, and mapping of existing data has also begun. The last one we have is the bus stop ADA accessibility evaluation, task 4.4. We had done ADA accessibility evaluation for both Fitchburg and Leominster last year, and this year we are focused on Gardner. So the scope of work has been developed, and data collection will be started this spring and summer, and then additional coordination with MART will be conducted as needed. So that's what we have for those major projects going on currently. Are there any questions on any of those? Tom, does that help with any questions you might have had?
It did. Thank you very much for the update. Of course, I wanted to know about all the projects, not just mine, but it's helpful to know that there's a draft upcoming, and much appreciate you guys taking that on. I know the sewer separation work set things back a bit there. With the ADA accessibility work that you had mentioned that took place in Fitchburg, would it be possible to forward a copy of that to me?
Yeah, I believe so. I know it was specifically around the MART bus stops. So George Snow worked on that. George, would you be able to forward that to?
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll definitely forward it to him. Yep, Tom, you'll get it.
I actually just received a request for information yesterday about that exact topic and kind of threw my hands up. So I'm glad to know there's a resource.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Sherry. Any questions for Brian or Sherry? All right. I think with that, we can move to the MRPC update.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Guy Corvacero for the MRPC. MRPC is in the process of submitting a grant proposal under the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program as administered by the Federal Economic Development Administration. The proposal will analyze the availability of utilities within proximity to road and rail transportation infrastructure that would be desirable by the private sector for the establishment of new business parks, both on brownfield and greenfield sites. We will also study the availability and quality of the labor market across the region, the availability of training instructions and programming availability to the workforce and other amenities needed by private sector to foster the development of new enterprise and expansion of existing business. MRPC's Planning and Development Department will be tasked with completing the analysis, researching, and reporting. MRPC's Transportation and GIS Department will contribute to the project. The future industrial lands for long-term economic redevelopment and resiliency grant proposals will be approximately $400,000. For any additional information, please contact Karen Chapman, our Planning and Development Director, or Glenn Eden, the Executive Director. The second deadline related to the call for proposals for district local technical assistance services is April 5th, 2022. Awards for services to the communities will be made at 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 7th. Again, contact Karen Chapman, our Planning and Development Director, for additional information. And MRPC is in the process of completing its 2021 to 2025 update to the Montachusett Region's Comprehensive Economic Development Strategies. Again, if you need any information, contact Karen Chapman or Glenn Eaton. And that is my report. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Guy. All sounds good. I think the only update I wanted to mention is that the Innovation Conference will be taking place on May 24th and 25th. I'm going to put a link for that in the chat if folks want to register. You can use that. So the next item is administrative matters. The next MPO meeting is currently scheduled for April 20th, 2022. So that's going to be an important meeting with the release of the draft tip, and it sounds like probably the release of a draft UPWP as well. So definitely I want to make sure folks can make that one so we have a quorum and we can release those on time. So any other administrative matters? All right, I think with that we can move to adjournment. Is there a motion and second to adjourn?
So moved. I call this up.
You want to second that, Arthur?
Sure.
All right. All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Any abstentions? All right. I think seeing none, we are adjourned. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you all back here on April 20th. Have a great day.
Good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.